Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. Another great episode with a lot of stuff that went down this episode, so let's break things down bit by bit. Well, first of all, we had this whole situation with Archie this entire episode. Like, for one, still reeling from the whole situation with his dad, like, still trying to keep the promise. He's drinking a lot of energy drinks, trying to make sure he stays awake because he can't take any chances. Like, he's got to protect his dad. Interestingly enough, it seems like his mom isn't in town. I guess, like, she was just in town long enough to make sure Fred was okay, and then she left again. Not unless she just wasn't in this episode, but nevertheless, Archie's pushing himself to do that because he's terrified, and he's just like, understandably so, and he's just trying to do whatever he can to protect himself and his family. To the point we see him at the end of the episode getting a gun, which is like, because it kind of plays into something that Reggie kind of pointed out to him, because like Reggie was an idiot and showed up in the episode dressed with the mask on. It's like, what are you doing, you idiot? You already heard from him earlier in the episode being like, yeah, I gotta protect my family from this guy, and it's like, you're gonna do that? You're lucky he didn't do something worse. But then he's like, oh, you don't bring a bat to a gunfight, which kind of inspired Archie to get the gun later on. So, and on top of all that, he finds out about the whole his Grundy situation, which is interesting because Alice ended up finding out about it, and it seems like she was killed by a cello bow, which is interesting because Archie himself points it out. It's like, actually, I gave her a cello bow. It's the last gift I gave her, and she just happens to be killed by one. It's like, oh, obviously this is some kind of thing. Obviously he goes to Sheriff Keller about it. It's like, oh, what about, like this has some kind of connection to me. That's what he's even stressing to his dad. It's like, we got to figure out who this guy is, because it's like the people around me are being hurt. First you, now Miss Grundy, like, which not everyone knew about their relationship. Only a select few, obviously, people in the show knew about the relationship between them. So, because even Sheriff Carroll was like, oh, how you know about her abusive husband? It's like, we were close. It's like, oh, okay, right. No, not everyone knew. Because, like, she kind of got ran out of town by Alice, to basically be like, okay, you either leave or just everyone in town's going to know. But, obviously, like, Grundy's ex-husband has a perfect, solid alibi, so now Archie's thinking like, no, maybe I was wrong about it. But it's like, no, you were right. We as the audience know that he was right, because he just has his feeling, but everyone's kind of like, well, Archie's paranoid right now just because of the state of mind he's in, which is understandably so, but it's just like, he's terrified and he's just making connections that aren't there. Even Alice is like, no, there's no connection here. It just seems like it was a crime of passion. And maybe because that's the question about Grundy's murder. Like, obviously, there is a connection here. The question is, was the connection Archie? Was it the killer, a connection to the killer? Or was it something else entirely that he was hired for? Because, for example, what I mean is, the fact of the matter is, she was killed specifically with the cello bow. Now, was that a message to Archie? Like, was it meant to be like was it the killer's decision? Was it, being whoever hired him to do it? Was it their decision to do that? Or was Grundy's murder meant to throw a loop? It's supposed to be like, oh, make you think there is no connection. Like, was her death necessary, or was it just a part of a plan to be like, okay, and now the attack on Fred looks like it's an isolated incident, her murder's just a separate thing. Like, I feel like that's kind of a weak thing. I feel like it's more so like, it's meant to look like a crime of passion for the purposes of not realizing that she was a target too, but we don't want it to look like it's the same person, or what. But then again, it's like, maybe the killer had a personal connection to Grundy. This can't all be about Archie, and even if it was, why would it be about Archie? It feels like there's something else here, and Archie's connection to these people is just kind of a byproduct of it. But that might be a point in trying to figure this whole situation out. I don't know. Like, I can't wait to kind of dive more into that, because we do see him strike later on in the episode. He ends up shooting a bunch of two students who are basically getting high off this new drug, Jingle Jangle. One of them's name is Mitch, because she got it from Reggie, because Archie was trying to get stuff from Reggie so he could stay up without stopping. But it seems like that's the new drug in town and everything, which then begs the question. Well, for one, part of my brain goes, we didn't see it, but part of me goes, what if Mitch is actually still alive? Like, what if one, if not both of them, is actually still alive? They're just in a coma the next episode or something like that. And they pointed out, they'd be like, oh yeah, it was a guy in a mask. And now it brings that connection, like, oh, this guy's not just like some random killer. Like, he is a hired gun, because I'm sure everything is going to be done in a way to make it look like this isn't connected. Because the interesting thing about Grundy's case is the fact that all the doors were locked, but we as the audience know that he snuck in. So either someone knew a way to get in Grundy's place, or he's very good at covering his tracks and makes it look like, oh, she knew the person who she let in. So I don't know. That, like, this person that forced their way in, that they knew. It's like, no, they could just, this guy is a professional. Which does beg the question of, maybe he was never meant to kill Fred because he hasn't circled back around, or maybe just because it's drawing too much attention. It's meant to look like a regular robbery, but it seems like it's much more. Like, what if this whole thing is a play? Like, what if everything we're seeing happening, the two students, Fred, even Grundy, what if they're all like red herrings to be, look over here while we're really doing all this other stuff. You're focusing on these cases, not realizing that this is happening right now. I mean, I guess technically that plays into the episode, which, I mean, like I said, there's so much that went down this episode that I gotta break down. For one, Pops is, at first his place was shutting down because people tagged it as like, oh, Def's, diner or something like that, which is like, one person like got shot here. It's not like Riverdale's the sweet place that it was before. I mean, it's like things have changed since Jason's death. It unveiled a lot of skeletons in a lot of closet and revealed just a lot of deep, dirty secrets, So it's just interesting that he suffered the brunt of that, which the way the episode kind of plays out makes you wonder, is there more to it than that? Because it seems like everything was tailored to the point of, because obviously, Hiram is trying to get back into Veronica's life and everything. Oh, we can be a happy family, him and Hermione, obviously, but it's like, he doesn't, like, Veronica's not trying to listen to anything he says because of all of the stuff he did, because she even says it herself, I cannot put the blindfold anymore. She's like, I've heard and seen the stuff that you've done. I've seen what kind of person you are, and I'll never go back to being that little girl that could believe her dad could do no wrong. Shows Hermione the letter, and Hermione was like, oh yeah, I wrote it. I was like, is she telling the truth or is she lying? Turns out she's lying, which is like, once again, and it's so, like I said, major props to the actress who plays Hermione, because it's like, I don't know where she stands in this whole situation, because even Hiram's like, oh, thank you for doing that, because if you hadn't, Veronica wouldn't trust me, it would just be a complicated situation. And she's like smiling and everything, he's like, I appreciate your loyalty. So the question, it did seem like when she originally saw it, she looked like she was kind of shocked, because she was like, oh crap, you actually said this. So I can't tell whether or not she's really okay with everything or not. And she just kind of like, okay, as long as the ends justify the means, like we'll make it out of this, which is like, I don't know, like, where she stands in this. Is she just playing alone because she realizes how dangerous he is? Maybe she's playing she's keeping the cards very close, to the vest, just to be like, oh, like, not, like, gain any attention. Like, Veronica's very open about her opinion, but maybe Hermione is like keeping hers, waiting for the right moment to strike or something. Like, maybe, I don't know. I'm very interested to see where she goes on this. Turns out Hiram is connected to buying Pop's place. I mean, it makes it seem like it's a charitable donation, but the people who are originally buying it anyway were secretly working for Hiram to get it, because Hiram denied it when everyone was just like, immediately Betty was like, oh, it has to be Hiram, and told Veronica, and Veronica accused her dad. So there's that. Kind of showing you how devilish that he really is. I mean, it sucks too, because like, you had, Jug convincing Veronica to give him a second chance, because it's like, basically, you don't know how life is. Like, the reason, because Veronica was like, the fact of the matter is, all the stuff FP did, like, even prior to all that, you were going to cut him out of your life, but then you gave him a second chance. You're here fighting so hard for him. Why? It's because he changed. He's trying and everything, and the fact of the matter is, that makes all the difference. And it's like, even if there's like a 0.10001% chance that your dad is like actually trying, shouldn't you give him a benefit of the doubt? Which are like, no, you shouldn't, because it seems like your dad is very conniving and manipulative, even more so than I feel like we give him credit for. Even to the point he fired Smithers, and he makes it go like, oh yeah, his mom was sick, so he left, blah, 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 blah. And Veronica immediately gets it. It's because Smithers didn't trust her dad. He even told her as much last season. And this season, like, the moment he's like, oh yeah, Veronica, you might not want to go out that way. It's just like, why? And then he's like, yeah, why wouldn't she want to come out this way just to bump into me? It's like he was he cared too much. And he was just like, And that shows you where he stands, that he cares about Veronica. And the fact of the matter is, he's never like that with Hermione. Makes me think, like, Hermione, it's like, not really all for this Hiram situation. She's just in a bad situation that she can't get out from under. You know, because she knows that if she turns her back on Hiram, like, things will not be good for her or Veronica. So maybe she's doing this for her sake, but also doing it for Veronica's sake. Like I said, we don't know. But I think it is going to be something going forward that Veronica, it might be pretending like she's giving him a chance, but secretly she's like, no, Dad, you're up here, because he's lying to her face again. He's like, oh, transparency from here on. It's like, and you're lying. We, the audience, know you're lying about a lot more, but from Veronica, right there, she knows that you're lying there about the whole Smithers situation. So, I mean, obviously he's got to be connected to this Jingle Jangle situation. Like, there was a whole drugs thing that Cliff was connected to. It's like, we know he's getting the drugs from somewhere, so it seems like Hiram is kind of taking over the operation. So maybe he has something to do with Cliff's death. It's something I didn't even bring up in the premiere. What's affecting the matter is, like, Cheryl kind of alluded to the fact is that her mom, there was a lot more connections to her mom and, like, Cliff's death. Like, the fact of the matter is that she's hiding something about it. Like, I can't remember if she was alluding to the fact is that her mom might have actually killed him. I don't remember. It's just definitely something like, there's something there that, her mom is hiding. What exactly, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But it seems like whatever it is, Cheryl kind of knows, so. Like, it seemed like she might have changed or removed something from the crime scene or something, last season. I mean, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. But a lot of things, another thing that kind of went down this episode is you having Betty fighting for Pops. I mean, you know, you have Jug dealing with the whole, like, his dad's situation. And the reason why it's so important is just because that place is such a staple place for everyone to come hang out and chill and do stuff. And now you have it being, like, possibly being shut down just because of this one incident that happened there. Which sucks that, you know, he's being cornered like that. But Betty goes to whatever extreme she can to help out there, but also the extreme she went to in this episode to help out FP, because FP's facing 20 years. That's with the deal. Without the deal, if he went to trial, he'd be facing at least 40 years. So now it turns into a situation of, and it's kind of interesting because that's something we've never 100% dealt with. It's a whole, like, dark Betty, like seeing that darker side of Betty, kind of having that switch. Maybe that had something specifically to do with the whole Polly situation last season, but maybe even more so this season. I feel like she doesn't go to the extremes, but it seems like that dark side has, I don't know, taken a life of its own, continuing like it did in season 1. Basically pushing Cheryl to be like, hey, you're going to help out Jug or release the tape showing your dad killing your brother. So you think things are kind of that darkest point in your life where it's going to be spread like wildfire. And it's like, wow, Betty. Even Cheryl goes as far as calling her a cold-hearted bitch. It's like, holy crap. Which I guess, like, you almost see like a smirk on Cheryl's face, because I think on some occasions, like, Betty surprises her, because those are very Cheryl-like moves. And I think for her, it's like she actually surprised. I mean, to be fair, you guys are technically family. Well, not technically, you guys are family and everything. So there's that angle of things. So with her testimony, you know, she lies on the stand and everything. You know, Cheryl makes it sound like, okay, I actually overheard a conversation between my dad, and he was threatening FP because he was going to go after Jughead, which we do know that last season he did, but that was after everything FP had already done. But I mean, I'm sure it's probably implied that he did it before then too, but nevertheless. So the recordings were given to Cheryl, which is kind of interesting. Pops, like I said, got to keep his place, but obviously Hiram owns it now, so it's not necessarily an episode where everyone walked away 100% happy, especially when FP was like, whoa, wait, did you talk to Penny to make this whole situation happen? It's like, well, yeah, Penny was a former serpent, and it's like, she's a lawyer, so obviously she was happy to help and everything, but FP's like, do not make a deal, don't, if she's ever around, avoid her like the plague, essentially. It's like, you don't want to be in, like, you don't want to get mixed up with her. Like, the moment he shook her hand, she's like, oh, the moment she was like, oh, you don't have to pay me. Just call this a favor and you'll owe me one. I was like, oh, the moment she said that, I was like, this is going to come back to bite Jughead hard. I know it is. And they just shook on it and everything. I was like, you're shaking the hands with the devil, aren't you? And literally, FP says that later on in the episodes. I'm like, yep, that's definitely going to be very concerning. Like, to find out, like, what exactly she wants. Like, she probably helped FP on purpose because, I was like, for one, the position that FP is in amongst the serpents anyway. So, I mean, I wonder what she's going to do to force Jughead's hand. Maybe there's some recordings or something like, in what shape or form is she going to force his hand? Maybe even kind of manipulate the whole FP situation. Like, oh, I was going to help and everything, but I can't make it worse if you need me to. It's like, but, everything, it seems like, is all playing into Hiram's hands, going back to it, because you even have Alice noticing the Reggie dropping off the drugs, the snake, the serpents being there, Hiram being there, and basically she kind of shoves it in Betty's face, like, oh, I hope you realize, Hiram's happened here. The fact of the matter is, him buying Pop's place isn't some coincidence while there's drugs being sold out in the parking lot by Reggie, and there's serpents here. It's like, it's all a little coincidental, don't you think? Oh, you single-handedly brought crime back to, Riverdale. I hope you're happy. It's like, that's super messed up. It's like, man, her mom can be so critical. I mean, you're like, I mean, especially like after everything, it's like, it's so messed up that she pushes Betty like that. It's kind of like, well, no wonder Betty's a little messed up. I mean, we kind of already found out last season how messed up their whole family situation is. Not even just like, obviously, like where everything was about the whole, well, the whole them and Blossom's actually being related, making the whole Polly and Jason thing. Yeah. So there's that. Just their family's already a little crazy anyway. Alice is just kind of like, she's so, I don't know how to properly put it. She's so nitpicky, and it's just like, Betty was just trying to do the right thing, and it's just like, oh, you're shoving it in her face, making her feel bad about every decision she made. All she did was try to do the best thing she could, helping her boyfriend's dad and trying to save the place that she loves, because this place has so many memories and connections to like her past. It's where she met Veronica. It's like where her and Archie hang out a lot. It's where her and Jughead, kind of set things in motion, being in the relationship they're in too. So, also side note, you also had Josie, her and the Pussycats. Well, one of the other Pussycats, because Val was, I forgot what she said, like Val's whole situation was. So Cheryl kind of stepped in. I thought that was kind of interesting. The song they covered. What's the lady's name? Is it Khaleesi? Khalees? I don't remember. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, which I have not heard that song in so long. I feel like everyone references it for whatever reason, but it's like I have not actually just sat down and listened to the song in a very long time. So it's just kind of interesting seeing them kind of do a cover of it. That was pretty cool. But nevertheless, I am curious to know about the whole like situation with Josie's mom, the mayor, because there was that whole conversation where like Jughead kind of cornered her, because Betty was asking about the whole like, oh yeah, let's make Pop's place like a landmark or something so we can get it protected. It's like, oh, but what, I can't back it up, because if I did, like, what if someone else got shot there? It's like, which I can understand where she's coming from, just like that wouldn't look very good, but still, it's just kind of like to hold that against Pop and everything. It's just like, so, I don't know. It's a weird situation. And then you have Jug being like, okay, could you show some leniency to my help, talk to someone to show a little leniency to my dad. And it's like, well, your dad will get the proper representation. And he's like, I want you to remember this. This is the day you turned your back on Pops and my dad. So it's kind of like, ugh. That seemed like very menacing and everything. And that definitely seems like that's going to be something that kind of comes back in the fold later on. I don't know whether it's going to be something like Jughead's going to need help from the mayor and she's going to say no or something. I mean, I don't know. It's actually kind of interesting. I forgot to mention this earlier when I was talking about the whole Veronica and Jughead talking together. Like, it's kind of something that was brought up season 1. They're actually only friends because of the connections, because obviously him and Betty and, her and Archie is like, those are people that are important to Jug. So it's like, that's why, but it's like, they had moments in season 1, but definitely it seems like they're kind of bringing that up back too. And like, oh yeah, like, let's get these characters together, like talking and bonding more. It doesn't just them two and not just, them when all 4 of them are together. It's just kind of interesting. You can't help but notice that every time. So, I mean, it kind of coincides with the whole Blossom situation too, because Cheryl and her mom wouldn't forgive FP, because it's like, oh, I'd rather watch him like basically get the electric chair, because of the fact of the matter is of what he did. He might not have killed Jason, but he had a hand in it and everything like that. So, I feel like those are things that are just they get resolved in this particular case. The whole FP situation is kind of resolved. I mean, there's always possibility of more kind of unraveling from it, but I feel like these are things that seem isolated that I feel like will come back in some shape or form going forward. But, that's just my thoughts. Like I said, a great episode overall, and I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.